What food do I make for my family more than any other? Bread. Simply, it's just bread. A sandwich loaf, much like you'd buy at the grocery store, but it's a lot better when you make it at home. And I'll show you how to do it right now. So to start off, make sure you use a scale to measure your ingredients for this bread recipe. You'll begin with 350 milliliters of water that's heated to 95 to 100 degrees, a teaspoon of sugar, and then 10 grams of active dry yeast. Then you're going to whisk that together until everything is dissolved. And let it sit for 10 minutes until it blooms and is fluffy just like that. Then you'll pour your fluffy yeast mixture into a mixing bowl. And then, a little at a time, you'll spoon in your dry ingredients, your flour mixture. That's going to be about 300 grams of bread flour, and then 275 grams of whole wheat flour. I use white whole wheat flour so the bread doesn't get too dark. And then also, very importantly, make sure you include 10 grams of salt mixed in with those flours. You're adding it a little bit at a time and stirring to incorporate. I'm using a silicone spatula so that nothing sticks too much. You can certainly use a wooden spoon if you'd like to do that. Make sure you scrape the sides, incorporate everything. And what I'm showing you is a way to do it by hand. If you have a stand mixer, certainly you can use that. You'll save yourself a lot of time. It's a little more set it and forget it. But I wanted to show you this so that way if you don't have a stand mixer, you still feel like you can make some bread. And now I'm going to add a little more of my flour. And you see how it really starts to come together as the flour absorbs the liquid. And a little more of my flour. Again, stirring to combine. It doesn't have to be totally one mixture just yet. Now I'm going to make some space and add 40 to 50 grams of vegetable oil and then the last of my flour. I add the vegetable oil to the dough because it makes it a little softer and actually helps it to keep for maybe an extra day. And you can see everything's starting to really come together. Just stirring and stirring, it's starting to scrape off the sides of the bowl. At this point, I'm going to tip it out onto a work surface and start to knead. I'm gathering together those last bits of flour that haven't quite incorporated and just keep the dough moving. It's going to be a little bit sticky, but keep it moving. I'm going to speed this up so you can see how it goes without having to watch me knead dough for 10 minutes. But you see, you just want to keep it in constant motion, stretching and prodding it, kneading it with your hands, rolling and rolling and rolling, again keeping it. And now after a while it will start to get a bit sticky. I would advise you against adding too much flour, but definitely use a dough scraper if it's starting to stick to your work surface. Continue rolling until the dough is smooth and then roll it into a taut ball just like this. At this point you have built up enough gluten in the dough to make some good bread. I'm going to carefully scrape my dough off and put it into my mixing bowl that I've now oiled with cooking spray. You can use regular olive oil or vegetable oil as well. I like this because it has a lid. I'm going to let it sit at room temperature for about 1 hour until it's doubled in size like that. At this point I'm going to degas it, so I'm going to just pop it and let all the air out of it. Turn it over, give it just a second. It comes right out. And now I start to shape it. Just get my hands underneath, make sure it's not sticking to my surface. Start to make it into a rough rectangle. Again, get all of that gas out. I like to use my knuckles. And now I'm going to just roll it. I'll roll it back toward me, patting it down as I go, just a little at a time. I should have a seam on the bottom, so I'll flip it over and just check, make sure. Pinch it together if you need to. Then carefully flip it back over. Give it a little nip and tuck, make sure everything's tucked in nicely, and you should have a nice dough log like this. Now you can leave your dough log separate, or if you have a loaf pan, you can put it in there. Make sure you grease it again with cooking spray. Cover it with a towel for 45 minutes to an hour, at which point you will preheat your oven to 425 degrees and put your loaf in for 15 minutes. Halfway through, I like to spin mine around to make sure it browns evenly. If it starts to brown too much, you can put some foil over the top. But after another 15 minutes, 30 minutes altogether, my bread is done. It easily comes out of the loaf pan, and I'm going to let it sit on this wire rack and cool for at least half an hour. Now it's time to slice. Using a serrated knife, I'll cut off the very edge here, then we can take a look at the crumb structure. It is irregular, which it's supposed to be, and you know the dough is done when you press with your thumb and it bounces back up. So now I'm going to show you how to store a loaf of bread. I like to wrap it in a towel, make sure that I've got one end covering the side that's been cut, and wrap it tightly, just like that. And then we have a bread box with a lid. That's the key. Wrapped in a towel and covered with a lid, and your bread will keep for probably about 3 days. Cute little box we have. Alright, now it's the next day. So my kids have had a slice of toast in the morning for their breakfast, so my loaf is a little smaller, but I'm going to make my breakfast now. So I'll slice it, and I'm going to throw this piece in the toaster just so it can get a little crispy, but certainly when it's still fresh like this, you don't need to. I'm going to thinly slice some avocado, and some hard-boiled egg. Fan out the avocado on the bottom and top it with some flaky sea salt, and in this case a Szechuan pepper berry mix. It's really good. And I'll top with my hard-boiled eggs, again seasoned with salt and pepper. So there you have it, a loaf of bread, a little avocado toast with some hard-boiled eggs. Top it off at the end. It's so versatile and so useful to be able to make some bread at home. It's great for breakfast. You can use it for lunch, you can use it with dinner, you can use it as a snack, and you'll probably save yourself some money over what you pay at the grocery store as well. Hope you enjoy. I'm Josh, and this has been What's for Dinner, Dad. Hard to beat this. If you found this episode helpful, saw something useful, or want to try a recipe, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow on social media for updates and to ask questions. I'm Josh, and this is What's for Dinner, Dad.